this is Hooked by Happenstance. I'm Kendra, and it is time for chapter 16 of Yarn Tales. Yarn Tales is my ongoing series here at Hooked by Happenstance, where I read books, I tell you a bit about them, and then I apply some silly Kendra rules to my rating of the book, and I add a segment to my reading shawl. My reading shawl is an ongoing project, which has turned into multiple shawls, and it involves using different yarns to kind of book log the things that I've been reading, helping me to make a tangible outcome from the intangible books that I consume. So today's book is Mr. Penumbra's 24-Hour Bookstore by Robin Sloan. Now, I was originally drawn to this book when I was scrolling through on my phone trying to find another audiobook to listen to, and I had seen the cover. The cover is beautiful. It's like a white background with yellow rectangles that are like reminiscent of books on a shelf. Some of them are kind of tipping, some of them are upright, but the color of the yellow on this book, just really like it. I also really liked the way that the title was kind of like handwritten, like with like a pen, it kind of looks like, which is kind of interesting, like a juxtaposition of handwriting and books, and because you know books are printed. So this book is the story of Clay, who had been in marketing and is out of work, and it's just kind of talking about him bouncing around in the San Francisco area and needing a job. Well, he ends up working as the night clerk, like the overnight clerk, at this bookstore called Mr. Penumbra's Books. And he encounters some odd clientele while he's working there. Now, the bookstore is broken into two segments. One segment is like a normal bookstore, though they don't carry any like bestseller or books, you know, that anybody would actually want to buy. And the back section is more of a lending library of sorts, and these people have like a special card to gain access to the books. And so the story evolves around Clay finding out where he works and kind of how it works. And it turns out to be a really interesting, like, adventure. Now, many of you may know, I generally do not like adventure stories. However, I enjoyed this story because I don't know that it counts as an adventure so much as they're solving a brain teaser of sorts, kind of a riddly bit. I don't know how to describe it, but it's not like, let's all go win the cup or something, or they're not trying to bring home a treasure. They're trying to figure out how and why something is happening. So, I don't know. I found it more interesting than other books that I might think of as mystery adventures. I listened to the whole book in one evening. I listened to it through Libby, which is the app for Overdrive, which I get access through from my local library. I listened to it on my phone one night. There's a fly buzzing around your microphone. I listened to it all in one night while I was working on mystery bag clubs, and it was very, very enjoyable. I would definitely recommend this book if you are interested in books or technology. This book does a really good and interesting job of juxtaposing the two worlds and using them to enhance each other. And I had never heard the term Googler to describe people who worked at Google used, well, I really hadn't ever heard it used, and I certainly had not heard it used as eloquently as it is used repeatedly in this book about a guy who lives in/near Silicon Valley, and he deals with the Googlers and people like them a lot, as he deals with different development people on different things. So I found the characters in this book to be really interesting and relatable, and I enjoyed how it talked a lot about Clay's roommate and some of their interactions and kind of a childhood friend. There's a little bit of a romance that happens, but it's not like it overtakes the story, and it happens in a way that I think is natural, and every character has an even amount of attention paid to their character building, because there's not a lot of them, so they can kind of all be built up similarly. Now, I had seen, when I looked just briefly on Goodreads I was actually looking at something else, but I noticed that a lot of people were commenting on how this book is poorly written and how they didn't think there was any character development. And like, it's not huge, like you don't get a lot of backstory on all of these people. You only know relevant facts about them, but those facts, you know, it all pans out, which currently I'm just not down for reading books that have too much extraneous information. If it's not relevant to what's going on, like, keep it to yourself. That should be edited out in the process. Just nice, tight stories where all of the information ultimately makes you go like, oh, or, ooh, that sort of thing. There's lots of those little moments throughout this book, and I really enjoyed that. Another thing that I really enjoyed about this book was the narrator. Sometimes in audiobooks, the narration, it ruins the book. And sometimes the narration, I don't know, it just almost makes the book better. And this is definitely one of those cases. I went up specifically to see if there were other books narrated by this person because I enjoyed it so much. So that's what I do now is if I listen to a book and I like the narrator, I will then, like, usually there's like a hyperlink of their name, same as the author, and I click on it and I'll pull up any other books, and then I take any book that sounds remotely like something I would like and I add that onto a wish list tag that I have. And so that way I can look into it later, because if I've enjoyed you spending a little bit of time in my brain, then I will probably enjoy you spending some more, right, as far as the narrators go. So that is an interesting way that I've broadened which books end up on my list, is kind of by following these narrator trails, because some of the narrators I found narrate a lot of books in the same genre, or all the books by the same author. I think it's Rainbow Rowell, who all of the books that are available through my library services are narrated by the same person of hers, which, I mean, makes sense because they're all like similarly genred, similar age characters, that they would all be narrated by the same person. But that's not the case for all authors. And some of the narrators have very different things that they do. Like, I might read like a YA or like some sort of like romance, like something kind of chill, and then most of the stuff that they do is like thriller, horror, whatever. And I'm like, I'm not gonna listen to the rest of your books if that's the case. But if there's anything on that list that looks appealing to me, I definitely like add it to my to be listened to be read pile, and then I get to it when I get to it. So it is a very, very interesting book, and I gave it 5 stars. This was in one of my runs of good books. So now let's take a peek at my shawl. So as you know, I am using 4 different yarns for 4 different types of books. There are books that I read with my kids, books that I'm experiencing through Life's Library, which is a subscription service, physical books, and audiobooks that I consume by myself. And this falls into the audiobooks consumed by myself category. So here is what my shawl looks like currently. The way that I'm working this is for each book, I do a patterned segment that is defined by the type of book and the yarn that I'm using. And then I do a textured single crochet for each star that I rate the book. So Mr. Penumbra and his bookshop got a 5-star here. So I have a nice thick stripe of this yarn. So the yarn that I used is from Lolo Did It. It is on the L'Original base, and it is in the one-of-a-kind color called Blarney Castle. So I have a nice thick stripe of it here. It is still very pleasant to work with. I've just been defining where the increases and such go by my own whim. I do have their general location marked, and then I make the choices as I get there. But so far, I am really happy with how this shawl is working up, and I've really been enjoying my reading experiences and my shawl experiences. It's all just been good things all around. If you would like to see more of the videos in this series, there is a playlist here on the channel for everything from Yarn Tales this year. I also did another shawl using kind of a different way of putting things together last year, so you can see that in a playlist as well if you're interested in other books that I've read. And if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of these, go ahead and subscribe because they do not come out on a particular schedule. So if you want to make sure that you don't miss out on any of the Yarn Tales chapters, subscribing is the best way to do so. I hope you all have a great whenever you see this, and I will see you next time. Bye!